Time for your low country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-400-8009. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm, of course, your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for joining me this morning. We're going to talk about the real estate market right now as we head into really the last few weeks of the year here, where we don't typically see a ton of activity between now and say, the end of the year. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of it. There are still plenty of people that transact in real estate. But I want to help you guys better understand what's happening right now, where I think we're heading as a real estate market, what's going on here locally, regionally, and nationally. Because, of course, we get folks that move in here from all over the country, all over the world. So it makes sense to have an understanding of what's happening in those markets and how that then impacts us here in the low country, which is the point of this show. I've been doing this for almost a decade and sharing my thoughts, opinions on the real estate market with you guys, helping you formulate an understanding of not only the market and the direction of it, but also the real estate process. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. We're going to start with a market update and just help you guys understand what's going on, at least as it relates to October's numbers, now that we've got those in. But I really want to talk about, if you're thinking of, let's say, selling a house, you really need to think carefully about how you interact with the potential agent that you're going to hire to sell your home. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. I'm going to give you some things that you absolutely can't miss and things you should absolutely avoid doing when you're talking to your potential real estate agent, when you're interviewing them. And then I want to just kind of give you a bigger picture understanding of really how the consumer and the behavior of the consumer has changed, yet the marketing associated with selling real estate really hasn't changed by and large for decades, really. So I want to talk about the old school approach, why that's not really working anymore, and why you deserve something a little better, of course, which is to hire somebody that really understands marketing in today's new economy with today's folks. People are naturally more skeptical. They're more guarded. They're on defense. They're looking for reasons to not trust a sales professional rather than to trust a sales professional. And we're going to dig deeper into that as time goes on here. But first and foremost, if you want to reach out to me, if you have a real estate question, if you're thinking about buying or selling a home, you're making some plans, maybe it's toward the end of this year or the beginning of next year. A lot of folks ramp up between now and spring to prepare their homes for sale and just kind of get in the right mindset, make some plans to create that transition for them in the spring months. If that's you, if that's something you'd like to talk about, if you have some questions, if you want to hire a great real estate agent, please give me a call. We'd love the opportunity to earn your business. My number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065, or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So let's start first with just what's going on in the real estate market. If you've listened to this show over time, because I know there are plenty of you that listen to this show sometimes every weekend. Sometimes you just kind of catch it when you can. But we've been doing this for almost a decade. And if you're a regular listener, you know that I've been essentially telling you guys for almost a year now that this market is shifting, and we've been giving you some advice on what to do and how to prepare for that inevitable shift. Well, here it is. It's here. There's no refuting that at this point. The market is shifting. The question now is, by how much and for how long will this happen? What's going to be the impact when this is all said and done to this market? And the reality is we're undergoing a major shift right now. We got used to what the real estate market was like back during COVID, and that's just, that's just not a normal market. But normal, I guess, in the eyes of the everyday buyer and seller is what they're subjected to for prolonged periods of time. And for the past, at least 2 years, heading into the end of the first quarter this year, it has been gangbusters for real estate agents, for sellers. It's been very, very challenging for buyers. And now the tables have turned a little bit. We have limited inventory. It's starting to go up, and I'll share some of these stats with you in a second, but the number of homes for sale is increasing. Sales have plummeted, basically. And then, of course, we're fueled by very high interest rate environments. And because the supply is still technically low, prices for now are holding. But when I'm on appointments right now and we look at what we're selling right now, in most instances, because, I don't believe in absolutes, there is no, I guess as it relates to real estate, but there is no one-size-fits-all approach to marketing a property, and there is no consistent dynamic happening in every section of our little corner of the world right now that's the same across the board. In other words, different areas, different price ranges, different neighborhoods, sometimes different streets have their own little microeconomics that we need to follow, supply and demand, associated pricing. And but I think by and large, when you look at what has sold and you're going back, let's say 6 months, and we're trying to determine what it would sell for now, if we're looking at something that sold 6 months ago and it was likely under contract 2 months before that or a month and a half before that, and at the point in time they made the offer, they were looking at what sold recently within the past 3 months, we're basically looking at the numbers that fueled that purchase at the very height of the market. And I think it's safe to say we are no longer at the height of the market. We are on our way down. Now, when we look at pricing and we look at what's it going to take to really sell this property right now in an environment where people, again, they're skeptical, not just of real estate agents or the process, but of course the market. Nobody wants to buy a property and then find out that it's worth less money. Of course, there's the whole interest rate issue, and we're going to talk about that too. But let me get into some specifics here with regard to selling real estate in this type of market, because you can't look at what sold at the height of the market 6-ish months ago without making some sort of adjustment to how people are thinking and feeling and behaving right now. A lot of what we're doing is just having to assess the current competition, because for the past few years, it's been, you go and you sit down in front of a homeowner and you talk about what's for sale, what's under contract, and what's recently sold. Your competition, the competition that actually got somebody to make them an offer that they accepted, and then the folks that have actually sold their property, right? Those are the three categories we look at. You could also technically look at the category of folks that didn't sell, which would be canceled and expired listings. And there used to be a ton of those in our market that we're going to start seeing a lot more of that as real estate agents don't adapt and don't evolve with the times. Their boilerplate marketing plan that's old school, that hasn't changed for 20 plus years, isn't going to work. It might work, but it's certainly not going to work well. Put it that way. And we're going to talk more about marketing properties on this show as well here in just a little bit. But you're essentially right now having to look at what's on the market. All right. How do I position myself against the current competition? And then what's under contract? What has actually resulted in a buyer raising their hand and saying, hey, I'll make you an offer, and the seller accepted that offer? What's actually moving? Where's the fast lane in the market right now? If we're looking at comps, we're looking at things as recently as possible. And the further back we go, the more adjustments we have to make for the lack of demand now as compared to then. It's a fairly complicated process. I know a lot of folks expect you to just kind of walk into their house and, walk through it and say, well, what do you think you can sell it for? This is the time right now where people need to be careful about pricing their property and listening to the thoughts and opinions of real estate agents, because everybody out there wants a listing. There's no real estate agent out there that doesn't want your listing. The challenge is, can they sell it? Do you want someone that has a listing or someone that creates a sale is the question. And so you have to be really careful with how people approach pricing your property. And you need to have a sit down with them. You need to have them show you and explain to you the numbers. How did they arrive at that conclusion? What causes them to believe that's the price that will cause your home to sell? Or what's the strategy behind selecting that specific number? What do you anticipate is going to happen? If they can't articulate that, then you should have some red flags that go up that say, you know what, maybe this person's just kind of telling me what I want to hear so that they can get the listing. And we'll talk about all that great stuff this show. It'll be a show where we kind of bounce around a little bit here, but I think that the thing that's most important right now is understanding the direction of the market so that you can kind of wrap your head around that. People get very emotional. They get very tied up in the emotion of residential real estate. And so people either choose to act or not act based on that emotion, and then they rationalize their decision with facts. Anyways, we're going to talk about the market. We're going to go over some specific stats for Charleston, Berkeley, Dorchester County, the market as a whole, where I think it's headed, what I'm receiving in the form of thoughts, opinions, statements, questions from everyday buyers and sellers, because it gets you a really good understanding of what are people thinking right now? What's the level of consumer confidence? It's not my job to convince people that the market is better than it is or works than it is. It's my responsibility as a professional to help them understand, at least from my perspective, because it's really just an opinion is all it is. But I help people understand, if this is your goal, this is what I would do if I were in your position. This is why. This is how we're going to do it. This is what I expect to happen. And if things don't go according to plan, then this is how we pivot. This is how we shift. This is plan B, C, D. That's, I think, what's missing from a lot of conversations between real estate agents right now, because in most instances, especially over the past few years, right, you just put the property on the market and it sold itself in a few days, sometimes a few hours. Those days are behind us for the most part. You still get them every once in a while, but that should not be your expectation. You can create that scenario. Don't get me wrong. You can create that scenario for yourself, but you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too right now. You can't overprice your property and expect for there to be a bidding war on day one. So I'll tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about some specifics with regard to this market. What's actually happening out there? I'll give you some stats. I'll help you with a general understanding of the direction of the market. And then we're going to talk about marketing properties. We're going to talk really first about how consumers have changed, how the process has changed, and frankly, how most real estate agents and companies have not changed. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Remember, if you want to reach out to me and have a conversation about working together to help you buy, sell, invest in real estate, maybe you own some properties that you'd like for us to manage for you, or maybe you're selling real estate right now, you're not happy with your business, and you'd like to talk with me about how to grow it, how to get better. My number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065, or check us out online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. We'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.